everyone, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 28 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in NXT history with match number 23 on our list, which is the NXT Tag Team title match between the champions, the War Raiders of Hanson and Rowe, and the challengers Ricochet and Aleister Black from the NXT TakeOver New York event held on April the 5th of 2019. So I've talked about it previously. I think that top to bottom, NXT TakeOver New York held WrestleMania weekend 2019 is the best TakeOver of all time. All 5 matches on it are great. 4 of them are amazing. 3 of them make this list. And the one that doesn't, it unfortunately got disqualified because it was for the NXT UK title. And, as I have previously stated, I'm not including any of the UK matches in this countdown. But this show is phenomenal. This match was the opener to that show, and you can't ask for a better opening match than what these 4 guys do. They get the crowd just unbelievably hot to set the tone for what would ultimately be an absolutely fantastic show. Now, it's funny because I feel like for the past little bit, this season, I've been talking about different matches being, the WWE version of a match from another promotion. The halftime heat match, I talked about that kind of being like a Dragon Gate style match, and the Worlds Collide match, I talk about that kind of being like a All Japan or New Japan, like 90s, multi-man tag match. Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox, I compare that to, a PWG Guerrilla Warfare match. Well, if that's a Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Warfare match, this match really is your quintessential PWG tag match. And what I mean by that is it's 4 guys that are going out there. There's not a lot of story. There's not a lot of depth to it, but they are 4 amazing athletes doing incredible moves to pop the crowd, and pop the crowd they do. The crowd goes, absolutely nuts for this match. And sometimes, that's all you need in wrestling, great stories and everything like that, we look for it, but every once in a while, maybe you just want to turn the brain, off and watch people go crazy and do crazy moves and have a hot crowd react to it. And like I said, that's exactly what we have here. Now, the circumstances around this match, though, were a little interesting. So, Ricochet and Aleister Black were the winners of the Dusty Road Tag Team Classic in 2019. They're the super team that I've talked about, previously kind of coming together to win that tournament. Now, the winners of the tournament, of course, get a shot at the tag team titles held by the Viking Raiders, the War Raiders, whatever you want to call them, Eric and Ivar, Todd Hanson and Ray Rowe, those guys were the champions. And they had, were in the midst of a very dominating run in NXT. They won the tag belts back in Philly. It seemed like nobody could beat them. And ultimately, they would end up vacating the titles when they would get their main roster call-up. Very similar to, what Asuka did, which we talked about in her match with Ember Moon recently. So, they were the dominant champions. You had this team that won the Dusty Classic, but something funny happened during the Dusty Classic where Ricochet, Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa were all called up to the main roster kind of suddenly and unexpected. And there were articles at the time that, Triple H and the, the NXT people, were caught by surprise, by it, and they weren't exactly okay with it. Ultimately, Tommaso Ciampa would get his neck injury, and that would kind of halt Johnny Gargano's main roster plans, and, he would never end up making it to the main roster, whether he, re-signs with the WWE in the future or goes elsewhere. We don't know, at the time of me recording this video, but it seems like he might be AEW bound, so, he never made it, but Ricochet and Black, obviously stuck around, but when they were called up, we really didn't know for how long or what was going to happen there. And it created this, interesting weekend for them where on the Friday night at NXT TakeOver, they'd be competing for the NXT Tag Team titles, but Sunday at WrestleMania, they'd be competing in a 4-way match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. So on paper, it seemed like, the result of this match was obvious. The War Raiders would win and Ricochet and Black would get kind of sent off, on their merry way to the main roster. But, with Gargano and Ciampa not appearing on the main roster, that maybe put a little bit of doubt, how long were these guys going to stick around? Also, do you really want to have a team that's challenging for your main roster tag belts 2 days later, lose a match, to the let's be honest, the minor league tag team champions before that. So it did cast a little bit of doubt, in the result of this match. This match, though, you know, I talk about it maybe not having a lot of depth, but, you know, they take the cool moves and they do put a little bit of a story into it of basically being, you know, these are two, you know, very different tag teams, and there's that big clash of style. You know, Black and Ricochet, you know, are obviously, you know, a little bit more high flyers. Black more of a striker, but, you know, they're smaller and they have that speed and they have that agility. And, you know, the War Raiders are just these big, strong guys. But, you know, kind of in classic PWG style, you know, but all four of these wrestlers kind of go outside, you know, their own element and show that they can do things that guys their size normally wouldn't. So our opening exchange here, we get, you know, a really nice kind of like Matt and Strike kind of even Steven sort of thing between Rowe and Black. And it leads, you know, with Aleister Black kind of stopping short on a head kick and kind of leaving his foot on Rowe's shoulder, basically saying, like, I could have kicked your head off. And Rowe kind of checks him and they do a fist bump, you know, when everything's hunky-dory. But, you know, that's going to get tied back in, you know, later on. And we get, you know, a fun little spot where the two faces do their dive fake outs and they both, you know, kind of do the Aleister Black cross-leg pose. You know, and that allows the Viking Raiders to get back into it, and they both hit, you know, double back rolls across their opponents, you know, as an evasion, kind of showing like, okay, you know, we all can do these quick sequences and we're all on the same level. The War Raiders end up getting a little bit of heat on Black, and they use some double teams, and they tend to use each other's bodies for their offense. So, you know, Rowe will slam Hanson on top of somebody. So he does that to Black, but then the tide ends up turning where they go for that again, and Black, you know, sweeps out the legs, and Hanson falls on top of Rowe, and that allows the hot tag to Ricochet. So when Ricochet comes in, you know, he hits all of these, you know, speedy moves and everything like that. He's eventually cut off, though, and we get to see Hanson kind of do, you know, his corner run back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But it leads to this big moment where Ricochet, you know, scoops Hanson up and hits this fall away slam, basically being like, you know, you're the strong guys. You think you're gonna body us around and throw your weight around. Well, guess what? I can, you know, fall away slam your biggest guy. I'm strong too. So got a huge pop, and it was really cool. And on the flip side of that, you know, Hanson kind of returns in charge, and we get this great sequence between him and Ricochet where they both do cartwheels, and Ricochet, you know, does a handspring against the ropes, and Hanson does a handspring into a back elbow. Basically the flip side of the coin, saying, okay, you can do my power moves, well, I can do your high flying stuff too. You're not that special. So kind of like a really cool, and Mauro Ranallo, you know, to his credit, he does a pretty good job kind of tying it all up on commentary, being like, you know, we thought this was going to be a clash of styles, but, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, because, you know, these teams are more similar than we thought they could be. Throughout the match, you know, we stick to these pairings to a fair degree, you know, where Ricochet and Hanson will do these great sequences together, and Black and Rowe will, you know, really kind of go to the striking game. So there's a really good strike exchange between Rowe and Black where they throw like vicious knees at each other, and, you know, it leads to all of these double down spots that give the crowd, you know, an opportunity to stand up and applaud and cheer and get their "This is awesome" and their NXT chants and everything like that in there. So like I said, it makes that crowd, you know, molten hot. There's a dive sequence here that is just really, really, really sweet. Where Aleister Black hits, you know, his inside-out moonsault to the floor that he does. Ray Rowe wipes him out with a tope. Ricochet hits just this absolutely gorgeous corkscrew Sasuke special to the floor. Just clears the top rope, twists, you know, 3 or 4 times. It's a gorgeous dive. And this is a man that, you know, has a pretty good track record of great dives. And this one's definitely near the top for him. And it leads to the big moment where, you know, Hanson, again, shows that he can be a high flyer. He kind of teased a moonsault earlier in the match that was cut off. But this time, you know, everybody's out on the floor. There's nobody to cut him off. He's going to do what he wants, and he heads to the top rope and hits the, you know, the somersault senton off the top to the pile on the floor, which was really, really cool. You know, back in the ring, we kind of get this, you know, standoff as everybody comes in to break the count. The War Raiders end up getting some double teams on Ricochet and just tear him apart with, like, you know, lariats into German suplexes and all of these big moves. Seems like they might have the match under wraps, but they get a 2 count off a double team because Black flies in with a double stomp. that is so good because he hits this double stomp to the back of Hanson, who's making the cover, and he just bounces off of his body, right? It's absolutely a crazy, crazy visual to see this man just, stomp with all of his weight and everything he has, and it just propel him back up into the air. It was really, really, really cool. From there, again, we get, kind of these back and forth sequences, and, Rowe's on the receiving end. He takes a couple strikes from both guys, and he kind of looks at Aleister Black and says, give me your best shot, and Black nails him with Black Mass, right? So that's that callback to the start where he stopped short on that kick, almost that respect level thing. At this point, he says, okay, you want it, you've got it, and he just completely obliterates him with the kick and drops him. That allows Ricochet to go up top and hit the shooting star press. Excellent near fall where they kind of do the classic, again, PWG style, tag break where Hanson just barrels through Aleister Black and basically spears him into the cover attempt to break the whole thing up. Ricochet goes for the 630. He misses. Aleister Black goes for broke with the moonsault to the floor again. He misses and gets slammed on the floor by Hanson. That allows both War Raiders to, use their double teams and use their tag advantage. Hit, Thor's hammer, that toss-up power slam, and then finally hit the fallout, which is that great, back suplex that Rowe does, while Hanson hits a leg drop off the top rope on poor little Ricochet. He gets crushed on that. And it's enough for 3. And it kind of, ties it all together that, the story that, even though it's not something they really talk about on commentary, I talked about this the other day with the Riddle and Dunn against Red Dragon video where, at its core with this Dusty Classic winners, you have 2 singles guys that are very, very great. But, 2 singles guys, they could be the best in the world. They can't always beat, a great tag team. And that's what happened here, it was the tag team using their tag team smarts and their tag team advantage, binding together, whereas the other guys, separated and tried to go for their own high-flying moves that allowed them to get the 3. We get a great show of respect post-match. A really great ovation for Ricochet and Black. They make it clear that this is their send-off to the main roster. The crowd, responds in kind, gives them, you deserve it chance, and all of this nice stuff as they, head on to the main roster to participate in WrestleMania. And, here we are a little less than 3 years, later after this match that I'm recording this video, and Aleister Black's in AEW and Ricochet's primarily competing on main event. So, it really goes to show that, we have all of these, visions of grandeur for, these NXT guys that are main eventers, title holders and everything. And they unfortunately don't always pan out on the main roster, but it was a really great moment at the time. And I think we all hoped for the best for them. This match, though, it's so much fun. It's hard-hitting. It's action-packed. It's high-flying. It's got all the great moves. It's got a great crowd. And like I said, you can't ask for a better opener to an amazing show. You can check this match out, of course, on Peacock. If you're outside the U.S., it's available on the WWE Network. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.